I just realized I should be recording this. So sorry, guys.
Ah,
I'm apologizing to any future viewers. I apologize for late recording, but we're starting now. Anyway, Kyle is speaking.
should I repeat the question just in this
Yeah,
case?
yeah. You should probably go ahead and
Yeah.
repeat
So
it just for any future viewers. We're not too
yeah, if
far
anyone.
in. People watching.
Okay then. But the idea is, what should, in terms of logistics, what would be necessary to prepare for the symposium, and how would it play out? So, would we need some time, significant time prior, to properly, advertise, have more engagement with this and this collective, and set out what these proposals would be, right? Oh, we'd like to engage more here, that, and also the issue of, if I recall well, there would be several work groups or discussions, right, going on, like one on math, one on overall. I don't know. Someone mentioned also doing it about an overall theme. I I think this is a little blurry for me, but at least setting like dates would be important. Like, oh, how many days would this be? How would this go on? Is it online? Is it like this and that? And then the preparation, right? Like, oh, how long before would it be necessary to prep for getting all those people together?
Mhm. Dennis?
Yeah, I just want to point out that I think this discussion ties into the discussion about the research coordinator position, because I think that part of the idea of that position is so that we can have a central theme of research, which would make it easier to present STP in a symposium like setting, rather than having a series of talks that where we each just bring something and we don't really coordinate at all, which we already do. Or so if we wanted this symposium to be more of a unified front thing of what STP is interested in, then we should also have someone like assess and figure out like what can each person contribute that fits together, right? Um, the other thing I wanted to bring up is so we can have more of a conceptual symposium, or we can have what you already mentioned, John, with other organizations. So more of an organizational. I mean, ideally we have both, right? But I feel like with an organizational one, it's more about logistics of can we get as many organizations together as possible, and what are we offering as far as like um is every organization just talking about themselves, or is there some kind of, again, a unified theme that we ask the organizations to think about and contribute to, which I think is a little more, takes a little more effort on our part. Like, we're not just saying, oh, come here and talk about whatever you want, but again, we're saying we're inviting you here to talk about a specific thing. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
I just want to jump in with something real quick before passing off to Victor, because it links both of the last two questions about logistics and quite a few of the different points Dennis just brought up, which is, I totally agree. I think the research coordinator should be selected first, should help cohere going in, and should also help keep track of anything that comes out of such a symposium, which would probably be the craziest part, would be all the, there's always excitement of those things. And then, like, what do you do with it? When you'll look back at one of these conferences 6 months later and be like, oh yeah, I was going to do all this crazy stuff with all these people, and I've got some email addresses and that's it. So how do you, I think the RC would be big there. I do want to push back on one thing, not that just because I think we can default to this assumption. I do not think we should go with the as many orgs as possible model. I think we should go with a selective few orgs that we very carefully kind of like plan up on. I don't think this has to be a big thing, and this goes to Kaio's logistics. I don't think we necessarily have to promote a lot outside. I think if we, it might, this is me speaking from more my side of like an organizational thing. If we work with other people that are interested in what we're working on, and at the interfaces of what we're working on, like with the Communist Caucus, where our interests and their interests overlap quite a bit, I think we then kind of pull in other organizations to do some of that work for us, because if they're going to be participating and they're excited about it, they're going to start bringing their own membership and people around them. I don't necessarily think this has to be a huge thing for it to be successful. I think it has to be an intentional thing with like some, like what you're saying, Dennis, kind of like teasing out ahead of time. That's very important. But I think I think one thing that it seems like Gabriel and I have in common, despite different, is it's more of a quality over quantity thing. It's just kind of what we're emphasizing as quality. But yeah, I would go for tight lists of who would be involved in. Sorry, Victor.
I was thinking maybe I think the way STP currently works, it's like an open symposium already. So we invite people, and I think the difference between like the regular way STP works and this would be that we would collectively organize it. So I was thinking maybe we could like make it like a special month, like March, the 4 meetings or 2 meetings, we're going to make a collective effort to organize so we can bring out something that we think is interesting, because currently like the meetings are like someone proposes and that's it. So maybe we could do that, or like the first meeting of the month for like 2 or 3 months are special meetings that we all are putting an effort into. So I mean, I think the way we currently do things, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to do like something 3-4 times a week, like an event during several days, and maybe it would be like make more sense to use our regular way of doing things and mix it up a bit, and to try to bring something more collective out of it, than trying to like do a whole new dynamic that would disrupt the way we do things and then never come back to it again. I was thinking maybe, I don't know if it makes sense, but
No, I mean that made sense. I also think it's a good point. Like, how can we? I mean, I took what you're saying as kind of like a twofold point. One is we have already got processes; they already kind of work pretty well. So why don't we build on that? And the second is, like, we are kind of interested in the process of collective organizing. So this is an opportunity to kind of like actually explore how we do that. Is that fair? See what comes up. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I hate to like overly punt it, but that seems like a good thing to kind of work with the CA potentially, especially since we don't have a research coordinator yet. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's probably realistically the case that we should get the research coordinator figured out first, and maybe part of their job should be kind of what Victor's talking about, like how do they could help kind of guide the process of that, so we're not kind of coming up with a whole new thing to do this. Renzo.
Yeah, I think there might be like two. I think one thing is like what are sort of like our strategic goal with something like this workshop. Like I think I see like two directions. One is more like giving visibility, like outreach of sort of the core ideas of STP, sort of like publicizing our current work to like a more general thing, so on. The other sort of goal is more in the direction of like fostering the sort of like relationship with certain like organizations and people we think it's interesting. I don't know if there are other sort of like possible things. I don't think we have to like maximize for both. And the other thing I think is like more organizational. Like I think there are two axes. Like one is the visibility, like how much visibility is sort of like the sort of goal, because for visibility, like getting like big names is probably a thing, but maybe for like making ties with like certain people, it's better to keep it small and like do something more like internal. And the other thing is whether it should be general, like general STP sort of stuff, like or a thematic, more specific thing. And on the more thematic, so because I also like with Victor saying, so I think, yeah, there's an option that would be cool. Like I see like two different like ideas. One is more like, and maybe there is more, but one more like sort of general STP looking for visibility. So like doing like some days where we try to like publicize, try to make some big names, sort of like give visibility to some like established, more like stuff that we have been sort of working on. And give, in that case, give less privilege to like inviting, I don't know, like organizations. That would be like a secondary. On the other hand, I think more related to what Victor was saying, I can also see, because something like using more like in the direction of planning around specific teams where you invite people for a certain team where we want to work out a plan together. Because I can see also that happening, because say I've talked to some people like Rafael and some people, for example, how we wanted to do to invite some friends that works on indigenous movement to like Thiago Guidi, and like try to like bring people to like start a conversation around a certain team. So in that case, it would be something specific, which takes some coordination among members, because we have to invite more people and concentrate into the specific team to make new ties and connections to these folks, or like some other team like education, I don't know. But I see this as two sort of like very different directions, right? One is very general and like big visibility. The other is more like specific to make ties with less visibility.
Yeah, I would say, since it's the first, perhaps the more general thing would be easier to come up with, because there's a lot of things we would like to discuss, perhaps, and perhaps it would be difficult to decide a common theme that everybody's interested in. So perhaps, since it's the first one, something more general would be perhaps easier. Just this is a possible argument for having a more general symposium. But I also am thinking out loud here. Perhaps when we say visibility and having some big shots and stuff like that, maybe that is not a good strategy. I would say that the big shots hardly will really engage with the material. I can't imagine really like somebody like Badiou talking about our material. He won't do it. He will just do his normal stuff and will be eclipsed by the presence of people like Badiou or Zizek and these kinds of people. I think this is a kind of also something that would worry if we are doing something that is about visibility, but visibility in the sense of reaching out to interested parties, interested people who might be or get interested in what we are doing. And I really don't think, this is of course not a personal judgment, but I don't think that like people from the tier of Badiou and Zizek would really engage with the material in a more kind of productive way. So one way, I'm thinking of what's concrete, what we have in our hands. Like there are people that are already interested in STP without being in the group. So we might just kind of think of a kind of a schedule of programming these people and see what comes from that concrete material, instead of deciding beforehand on a theme or something like that. For instance, I know Inigo Wilkins. He's not a big name. He's just kind of a guy like us, but he's an interesting guy who's from another kind of intellectual scene, talking about, abstract stuff like finance, economy, and noise and stuff like that. And he wrote a paper that quoted the atlas. So this is somebody that might engage productively, because he's already starting his engagement with the STP material. Other people like Martin wants me to. I'm pretty late on that. I have to write this paper on his book, Social Dissonance, but he was really fascinated with the talk that I gave about the book that connected his concept of social dissonance with the CSII and with some stuff from STP. So he's interested. So people who are already interested, they are not really big shots, but middle ground, like intellectuals. This might be more productive in a certain sense, and people who have also connections to politics and like Martin is very connected with collectives and things like that. Inigo is not so much, but anyway, it's a different scene, more connected to the problems of aesthetics and things like that. So we might just come up with the names that are kind of, let us say, mid-tier, that are interesting intellectuals that might be interested in engaging with the material productively and coming up with, as John was saying, something with more quality than quantity, and which gives visibility in a very much more kind of underground sense of solidifying a certain connection, a certain possible collaboration with those people, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say something like that, more than having but you and people like that will probably do business as usual and not engage with what we are really doing. So maybe this is just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that perspective. I in general don't think our work is at a stage. I mean, I do think anytime you throw things out, you can catch some fish, but I don't think it's necessarily the case that like focusing on just kind of like emitting our theory to the world with loudspeakers is where our work's at, or maybe ever will be. I don't know. And I think that like, I mean, I feel like whenever I dig into the history of like whatever school of thought, there's always like some fucking meeting of people that come together, and when none of them were known, none of them had done their thing yet, right? So like I think that's where we're at individually in many of our cases, as well as like as an organization. Like we're in this weird limbo between kind of actualizing other people's theories, which is like a lot of, as I understand it, CSII was more about like, we're going to take these proper names, and now it's like we are developing theory, which obviously is influenced by, but it's not nearly the same level of. So whereas it would have made sense maybe for the old school perspective to bring Badu in, because it would like more directly reflect what the group is working on. I agree. Like I don't see how that could actually really help us beyond the overall idea of just pulling in bodies. But again, I don't think that's really what makes sense for where we're at. And frankly, I don't, again, to emphasize, I don't think that makes sense regardless of whether or not we go with a more STP theory or kind of like inter-organizational way. I think smaller is better. I'm gonna get right back to someone just started yard work, so I'm gonna close my windows. But if anyone else wants to jump in, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what do we bring to the world? Like, what are we offering here? Because I mean, we certainly are offering something, right? I mean, for people, it's not just a disparaging remark, but like we have had a lot of a wide variety of different lines of research appear in STP, and it's, I think, a credit to us that these lines all kind of interact in different ways. Like, I mean, when we attend one of these talks that we give on Mondays, then there's conversations that come up and ideas from previous, presentations will reappear multiple times, and there's a kind of a cross fertilization happening in research, and I think that is valuable. But like this, I feel like this thing about working with other groups hasn't really taken off yet. It's something we want to do, and we have contacts now. People are interested in it, but like what I feel like the cross fertilization that we provide of ideas, that's a concrete thing. The working with organizations thing is not concrete in my mind. We met with the Communist Caucus, for example, but we still have to hear back from them on how they want to collaborate further. And other groups like the Vienna students, we had several meetings with them. But I guess I'm wondering what is the value we're bringing to them, to these groups, and if we could answer that question of like what are we offering to the world, I feel like that would maybe I mean, are we offering a theory? Are we offering a place for people to further their own research? Yeah, it's just an open-ended question.
Anyone got strong thoughts on what it is STP offers the world?
I don't, but yeah, hearing people, I feel like I also think like making connections like is something that takes time and takes work, like, and I don't think that just like inviting people we know, like, I think we're slowly sort of like, I don't think we're getting nowhere. I think we're getting somewhere, like we've slowly have been making new ties, but having everyone, all the ties sort of meet in a public event is normally like, I don't see that happening like that easy, or I think it's maybe too soon for that. Because it's not clear like what are we building here, like, right, like what are we providing, like what's the common space and so on. So yeah, on the sort of like proposal of doing something more sort of like specific and collectively organized, I think so either the sort of, what's the name, the research position could help on that, sort of like having someone to propose a theme and sort of like getting people around this theme. I think that could be really nice. Like I speak for me that has been some time that I wanted to do like the specific things, but by inertia, by lack of time, I haven't been able. But if other people, I can see like other people proposing some teams and trying to like move around this to organize some events, like small thing, but that would be nice. So yeah, I think it's tied. I agree, it's tied to. It might be tied to the research position thing, and yeah, and on the other hand, like I think we're also slowly gaining some like organizing what we have written, and I mean there's the book idea, there's still some the Portuguese translation to do, there is this sort of like silent sort of like spread of our work that's going through the texts and organizing sort of like our own work and making more readable and so on. So I don't think we have there's a hurry to do this sort of like a public event to sort of like present the ideas. I'm not against it. Like we've done it in Rio, right? The function was more to sort of like present to ourselves, the Brazilians, than to like to like external. It was open, some external people came. It was basically useful to organize. So I'm not against in the sense that we have to be ready to show, because sometimes just organizing is the way to sort of like get ready. But yeah, I also feel there's no hurry for that. Like I think we're not like stuck or anything. So I think there's things moving on in the sort of like with just real. There's the social words text. There's like the idea of book. There's translation. So we're getting somewhere, and we're also getting somewhere with like organizing with more people. The most concrete so far that in terms of propositions to me seems this more like specific thematic thing that doesn't depart too much for sort of like organizational things that has been going on, like Victor said. So yeah. But I wouldn't be against like other ideas like
Just to riff off what Renzo has just said, in at least what I've been hearing so far, it seems like in terms of priorities, would it be safe to say that first thing would be this position, the research coordinator position, and then assessing, as Renzo said, either a compilation and or translation as to have something condensed in order to, you know, use a symposium as a place to properly present it, and then the symposium, would that be the kind of the hierarchy there, or I don't know, or should they intersect at a certain point? I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly seems to make a lot of sense, both in the logistical sense that we can only do so much at a time. So if we get, you know, the research coordinator position filled, then that's done and we can move on to something else. And there's someone that's more allocated to that. Yeah, I think Renzo brought up some really interesting points. And so like JP, I'm just going to think out loud here for a second. So I think that a lot of the, from where I'm seeing, a lot of the problems that people have brought up about one form or another kind of, to me, can apply regardless, right? Like, if we want to have a symposium that's predominantly focusing on kind of us talking about a more condensed version of what we're already talking about in meetings, I think that's great and that's a good exercise. But that to me personally raises more of a question of getting people to come than the organizational one. Because I think that I'm not interested in, when it comes to the organizational meeting, like having people come to us to listen to what we have to offer them per se. I'm interested in presenting it more as like for example, with the Communist Caucus, they have this thesis of the disorganization of the proletariat. That fits so fucking nicely with our everything, that having some kind of panel where a number of us from their caucus, or maybe a third group or whatever, where we're actually discussing this, in which course our ideas would come up. But a lot of what I've been thinking about is more like dialogic, in the sense of like panels and discussions, and like one way kind of, we should have those too. But I do think I don't know. I mean, I there's definitely more work when you make something interactive with other groups than when it's just your group. I totally agree with that. And as long as we're okay with mostly just kind of reaching out to who we've been reaching out with, and are taking the symposium more as an opportunity to focus and to like consolidate and to kind of get consistent on where we're at, I think that makes sense to focus on the like generalizing our ideas or what have you. But I think if the idea is we want to concentrate our ideas in order to put them out to a new audience, that strikes me personally as more work than reaching out to the organizations we're already working with, kind of, and seeing if some of them want to get together and bring some of their members to what, in my head, to be clear, is kind of essentially what Renzo just described in Brazil, but with a couple groups or a handful of groups, right? Like, it wouldn't necessarily be outward facing as much as people who are already members and are motivated to come to things. So, and maybe that itself is not appealing to people, but I'm pretty convinced that no matter what we do, it's feasible and it's going to take a lot of work. I guess is where I'm at. I do think, regardless, though, yeah, like honing in on a specific theme. I have no clue what that would look like if it was just us presenting, though. I'm curious what people think we should focus on. Like for me, there's a kind of organic thing about this organization and stuff with the CC that we could then build out to other organizations. A ton of people are talking about that kind of stuff right now. But if we're going to hone in on what we want to talk about specifically in terms of our work, I agree that we should do that, but I don't have any intuition about what that should be at the moment. If people have thoughts on that.
I think if we were going to define a specific kind of theme, I still think the theme have to have some kind of generality. For instance, to define something like the organizational point of view, for instance, as a theme. It's not really informative, it's just what we talk about, right? So yeah, but I would actually be for that, for something like that, like instead of, you know, something really kind of specific. Because it's the first time again, and because he wants to appeal to interested parties, and I think more general things might appeal to people who have come already, like I don't know, Amelia, or people who talk about these kinds of things of organization. So we can do something around organization, the organizational point of view, define it in a kind of a text that would I don't know, offer a blueprint of what we mean by that, and have people who already know a little bit of what we do, so they may engage with what we do, and we presenting and they presenting. I think that this can be nice, I think, as a blueprint of this thing.
Well, if I'm reading the room correctly and the other messages, it does seem like the emphasis is on kind of us focused. And so I'm wondering if, in a way to kind of tie the two together, it would make sense to try to, like, and I agree, JP, by the way, I think we should err on the side of general if it's us doing the thing. But what if we like did do a number of presentations that was us, and then also had like a single panel that we brought some people to as a way to kind of like tie things together, where it wasn't the point of the whole event, but it gave us a way to kind of interface with other groups that wasn't simply asking them to come listen to us, which is something I think I do want to be somewhat sensitive to. I don't mean like in some like, oh, it's bad to do that. I just think everyone's got interesting things to say, and I would like to have a little bit of a forum within whatever we're doing for other people to share as well. Dennis.
Yeah, and I agree with what you just said, John. I think ideally we want to do a mixture, so it's not 100% just us. It would be nice to invite some like others who were engaged. I guess my only point earlier about like asking about the purpose of STP is I feel like you have to offer something to bind or tie together these people that you're inviting. Otherwise, like, why are they, you know, they have a lot of stuff to do, especially if they're organizing, you know, they're busy, and are we, you know, offering them a platform to, you know, spread their work? Well, we're not a very huge channel on YouTube. We don't have a huge presence, so it's not like we have a major platform we can offer them to talk about themselves, right? So what are we offering them? Well, I think we're offering them this organizational point of view, or some thematic thing that we can add some interesting flavor to for them, and also they can add flavor to as well. So it's like a joint project of some kind. So I think that's what I'm getting at. But I think we're heading in the right direction in this discussion of like, we want a dialogue, we want this dialogical thing, but we need some common ground, or some motivating ingredient to kick off the conversation. Otherwise, I'm just afraid of like, we invite some people and then they're all talking about different things, and we're all talking about different things, and it's just like our normal Monday meeting, but just cram together like a bunch of the series of unrelated talks. You know, I want something to weave through each talk so that it feels like a coherent project that we're all a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that goes back to a lot of what Victor was saying about this is an opportunity for us to kind of do some collective organizational work. And yeah, I totally agree. I think we do need to have something. I mean, I am perfectly sold on organizational point of view as like the theme. You know, I can see why that's not the sexiest or the but I think like if you were to drop down into like the shortest possible statement, that would be, you know,
I do think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it you know, because what I like about it is both words, you know, because it is the organizational and all the technology and stuff, but we are still kind of being like, hey, we're bringing a perspective, a point of view. It leaves open, I think, a lot of space, and it emphasizes that we're trying to, I think, as far as something to sell, or to, why do you want to come to our meeting? I think we're actually offering something as abstract as the means by which we got there are, that's really practical, you know. Like that's one of the things I'm hoping to kind of talk about in my presentation on the second is like the diagram of social mediation for me is useful thinking through concrete political tactics and strategies. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that I've seen people working on with the modes. It's not just like useful theoretically, but helps to explain their day-to-day reality. And I don't know if we're, as you know, there was a while where we were talking a lot about cognitive mapping. I don't know if we still use that in the same way. We've kind of shifted more to the metaphorics of navigation and whatnot, whatever it might be. I think that's a lot of what we're offering. We're offering a way for people to navigate social worlds. You know, so that'd be the other, you know, like if we wanted to have something that's kind of STP focused, but like with an idea of what we're offering, you know, like something silly like courses on navigation or something, right? Like we're
That's
teaching
great.
people how to, you know, navigate or something along those lines where like, you know, we all know how disorienting the modern world is. And we have an analysis of that too. So I think we have an analysis of why things are challenging, and we have a set of tools to address those challenges. And so, you know, we're just another self-help group that's just, you know, offering some techniques and strategies to cope with late stage capitalism. But I do think sometimes because we ourselves are digging in the theory, we can lose sight of how practically useful some of the stuff we've come up with is. And I do think it is useful, and I do think that that's one of the things to tell people is, yeah, these are pretty cool things. You should come check them out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think we need to offer much. I don't think we need like to have like a big YouTube channel and you come, you know, propagate your ideas. I don't think this is the motivation. I think the motivation is really to engage with what we are doing. And by that, I don't mean that the thing is completely STP centered. No, I don't think that. For instance, if we take just an example, the organizational point of view as theme, we may have Amelia presenting, and she has a kind of different take. We may have like, you know, different people presenting, perhaps Martin on social dissonance. This has something to do with that, so it's a different take. So we can have like a common theme with slightly different takes, but with people who are aware. I don't think they have to be, you know, in love with what we do, but I think it's positive if they are aware with what we are doing. So they might engage with the material. This is what I mean with engaging with the material, not inviting people to talk about what we are doing, like with this is kind of arrogant, but since we are the hosts and we picked up a theme, of course they will be aware that we have our own point of view regarding that theme. And I think we should profit from the people who are already interested in what we do. This was one of my points. Like we have Martin, we have Inigo, we have Amelia, we have people from the outside who presented already and who might be interested in coming back. And we can assemble a host of interested people that, and this is the motivation enough, it seems to me. We don't really need to, I think, offer much more. It's kind of the opportunity to produce something interesting, theoretically, and with, of course, as John was saying, with practical consequences. So, yeah.
In the spirit of thinking out loud, as you both have done, I can't help but thinking, like, it's the second time that I hear John mention STP as this space for, like you mentioned, like a place of self-help, of help, of being able to be listened, and of listening, and this space. And Dennis's question on that matter, like, what does it STP offer? I can't help but feel that this is one of the major things as well, not just the cross-pollination as mentioned, but being able to be heard, to ask a question, to be to hear, right? And this space in itself is a lot of what is interesting to let people know that is being offered. So in that sense, I wonder if like we could have, or if it would be interesting to have at some point a presentation on some of the inner workings that have, like, we've gone through, like how it was to enter the central admin position, what we're gonna do with the research position, how it was to discuss these things, the deliberation that was put into it, and overall, like, and then more people who have been here for a longer time could perhaps speak a little about the beginning, how this symposium was that Renzo mentioned in Brazil. I think that all these things would add up to not only an exposition of STP to the world, but also to those who, like, have recently come. I myself, I think I would benefit a lot from hearing more of what came before, and perhaps, like, being able to organize what has already been organized, like, kind of like a meta presentation. I don't know, I think might be nice.
Yeah, actually, I think Kyle just hit on a larger point too, which is we've grown. There's like a lot of new folks that have been coming around. And that is another kind of audience to consider in this, is like, this is an opportunity to kind of I think everyone that's new has jumped on, and so it's not a matter of getting everyone on the same page or anything. It's more of an opportunity, yeah, to kind of fill in blanks, and also to give newer folks that are interested a chance to present as well. As I think one of the things that's cool about Symposia and these kind of events is it gives us a chance to increase the amount of people and faces that represent, like, there's been a few people that have done a lot of that work, and it's exhausting and takes a lot of time, and I know that they would like to also talk about other things. So kind of disseminating that, so that just trying to spread the work out is good.
A very concrete question that comes to mind is, are we doing like a call for papers or something like that, or is it just invitation only? This is kind of a concrete issue that may decide, for instance, the size of the thing. If we are doing a call for papers, then the tendency is to have like a bigger kind of symposium than just invitation only kind of participation.
My go-to would be invite only for the actual participants, and
of course, I mean, call for papers, not necessarily academic papers. Just something like, open up to people who, do you have something to say to us? So you send a proposal and something like that. That will function as a call for papers, but without the necessity of going through all the, academic kind of drill, right? But yeah, this might be an important decision to like, if you are interested in in issuing a call or just inviting individual speakers or even representatives of collectives, but people who we already know and we already know that are interested in a productive way on common matters. Of course, the call is a lot more work as well.
I mean, I think we've default assumed we'd invite, so I'm wondering if anyone else has thoughts on the paper call idea. My only thought is what JP just said is more work, but I can also see the virtue to it. So
the good side of that is, of course, to get people we don't know beforehand that might appear and send some interesting thing, and we get to know them. So this is the good side of having a call. The problem is, of course, again, more work. So I don't believe we would get a lot of income from papers and people interested, but we may be surprised. I don't know. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking over the idea of the call, and I think it's a good idea because, yeah, like we could get people from just different areas that have something interesting that we didn't know about. So like Karan was saying, but yeah. But then would they be presenting their papers in the symposium? Right.
Yeah, this is a traditional way. Of course, we might tinker with the idea and change it and have some different form of presentation depending on what the proposal is. I'm not sure. But I think the first thing is the call, right? And yeah, I would say of course, there's a lot of inertia here. When I say call, of course, we think normal thing that they will send the proposal and they will talk, but maybe it won't be a finished or a closed proposal. It could be just somebody that would like to have like a debate about something. I don't know. I think we have to really think over that possibility of having a call and what Dennis, I think, is questioning, and I think it's a good also line of reasoning is what kind of call are we interested in issuing if we are going to issue a call.
Yeah, exactly. I love the idea of a call and just don't know what the format should be. Could it be a call for just any presentation, anything that would fit, or even a discussion, like you're saying, like just any topics that want to be that they think would fit into our overall theme of organizational viewpoint.
yeah, I'm wondering. I think my first hit is if we were to do a call, I'd want to see it for some kind of discussion framework where we'd still basically organize the presentations around the organizational point of view or whatever. But then we'd organize some kind of panel discussion, and I think it'd be interesting to send out a call for like people to kind of bring their like practical experience maybe, or things that they might want to like, because if we're saying, like this will help organize, then bringing someone, and maybe one thing we could do depending on where we are funding wise is like, since we don't have a lot of venue and it isn't necessarily going to be at all meaningful to put this on a resume to get into a CV or any of that kind of stuff, maybe we could offer like a small stipend, like we're putting a call in to have people participate to bring our experiences, and it's something we value, so we're attaching some kind of stipend or grants, tiny grant, but it would still be whatever that proper academic languages, that's what we would call it. Which obviously would get some incentive, but also it might like enable us to actually bring some people who are the kind of organizers who are very strapped for time and would need to have some kind of funding, but then it would actually be, I think, a more interesting possibility that way. On just a sidebar to bring up at a future time, the idea of doing a call for an actual like one-off journal also sounds really cool, where we'd ask people to like kind of write in their critiques or whatever it might be, developments, interpretations of our theory, but like it would be all people outside of the STP who would be interacting with it. We publish that. That'd be dope. But that's a whole other Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. On a kind of related note, I have this project. I'm sure I think all of you are aware, the CPC, which kind of this collective, Brazilian collective. It's usually in Portuguese language, so there's this limitation of language. We have now like 200 members on this on Telegram, the Telegram group. And we've been doing like these 3 courses on different themes. Like we did like a anniversary of the Accelerationist Manifesto of 2013. Recently, we did like anniversary of Appel à Finitude by Meia Sul, whatever. All these kind of philosophical and political themes. And one of the projects is to read off the Atlas with the people from the CPC. It will be in Portuguese, I think, but this is kind of an interesting idea, and I really want to do it. We'll be doing the Crisis and Critique that I helped organize here, the Brazilian Crisis and Critique. We'll be doing all the papers, 11 papers, and at some point we'll be doing the Atlas as well. So, and it's all recorded and stuff like that. So it's kind of a similar idea in the sense of, having people not from the STP, but interested in, a whole lot of contemporary theory and politics and organizing and things like that, to comment on what we are doing and see if it clicks with some people, and some interesting stuff come up. So
that's really cool, and also really good to know that stuff is getting out more and more in Portuguese. Do you think it's kind of
like 200 people is quite? I'm surprised. Like we had like 200 people like last month, so it's kind of interesting.
That's really interesting. It also kind of makes sense with our periphery theory that there'd be a lot of interest. These are a lot of really interesting ideas, and it's cool to see how quickly the Symposium idea is evolving here. So to kind of just step back into a little logistics, what do people think about like the literal next steps coming out of this? Like obviously, there's like the next step of discussing this and planning and whatnot. And then there's the whole question of like the research coordinator position. And I'm just curious what people think, like practically speaking, we should be kind of moving on to get somewhere. As someone that doesn't organize or work much in academic kind of stuff, I'm looking to all that do.
Yeah, I definitely think accelerating the approval of the research coordinator, and figuring out what that role entails and everything. I mean, I think Kaio, you had come up with a really good proposal that we just need to implement and choose. And then once we have that research coordinator, we can, because I feel like what we're saying is the part of the symposium will involve our own research or some overall theme that we're going to contribute to, right? but then there's gonna also be this potentially this call for other people to participate in whatever way they propose. So we want to be more flexible in that call, right? So we have kind of like the core STP research that we want to present, and then we have kind of this extensions to other groups that will be more of a dialogue. Is that kind of the working proposal right now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then, yeah, next steps. I mean, I feel like this double structure requires that we figure out the research coordinator, but we also figure out who, like, what's going to go into this call, right? The call for papers. But yeah, I also don't know. I've never run one of these things, so I don't know what. I think we could figure it out. I mean, just it'll be online, right? So it's not like we have to get a venue or anything.
Yeah, I mean, my main thing that I don't know is, from more quote unquote classic organizing, there's a lot of last minute scrapping together that works. I know in symposia and things that there's a much longer timeline to get people together, generally speaking. So that's mostly my concern, is I worry that I don't have a proper grasp of how long this could take, that I'm a little too impulsive. So if or way too impulsive, depends. But so that's like, I'm kind of thinking about that for folks that are, especially if we do end up kind of tying in some academic folks and whatnot, like JP is suggesting, which is I mean, that's pretty awesome that both those guys are doing what they're doing. So I'd love to hear, but that does strike me as yeah, just that kind of, those conditions of getting people there and having academics have enough time to kind of formulate what they're going to say and the way they want to say it, so on and so forth. So I guess actually that would be the third thing, right? Like a research coordinator, kind of starting to think about what it looks like to reach out to people, and then actually at least getting a general idea of when we do this.
Yeah, definitely figure out a time span. It could be, like we could spread it out over a longer period to get more people, like to be more flexible, right? Obviously, like the more narrow the time frame, the more constraints it is on the attendees. But we could have it, like I think someone mentioned, like across the entire month of March or something. And then it's all recorded, so like, I mean, we could even like make a playlist out of it, and so people can watch it all at once if they miss it. Yeah, I guess we're flexible on that, but then you lose the, having it flexible like that, you also lose the dialogue part, right? Because you can only have a dialogue if everyone's there. So there's that aspect.
It seems by the look of it, like the main thing is that first in settling out what would be this how the research coordinator position would work, then we'll be more free to really pinpoint things. It seems like at this juncture, the best that can be done is actually just to think out loud and kind of like cross-reference there what makes sense, what doesn't. But effectively, we need to set a date for another. I think we agreed upon using the same method for last time, right? Like for the central admin position. So it hasn't gone on the text yet, but I remember us discussing that this would very well be the same procedure, right? We would work on it as the same procedure. And then it's just a matter then of also knowing like afterwards who's left, who's interested, and then assessing that perhaps the symposium as like priority number one. Like, okay, research coordinator slash like, okay, directing towards the symposium perhaps, right? Because it seems like if we were to get into any other endeavor prior to that, we could very well lose some it could be more and more delayed, right? We would perhaps get into other projects, other things. So this would have to be set already, like by default, right? As perhaps the first priority of the coordinator position.
I think that all makes a lot of sense. I also think it's helpful to have some kind of material structuring when you're in a position like that, because there's so many odds and ends of what we're working here, trying to cohere everything in a direction. It's going to be challenging as it is, so having something to kind of tie it to would be good. The flip side of that, though, is we do, like has been mentioned, we do already have quite a few projects in the works that the RC would probably have to, in terms of books, and technically, I mean, translations probably fall under that, and the articles and all kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, they would already have stuff on their plate going in, but prioritizing this would definitely be, I think, a must if we're going to get this done in any timely fashion. You know, like,
yeah, because it seems like if anything else were to, even considering the book as you mentioned, and compiling as we had said, right, like doing this compilation work and everything, this would be also with the symposium in mind, right? Like, okay, having this prior to the symposium as to when it's there, to be able to present it in a certain fashion, to, right, like it would still have to be, because otherwise, and perhaps with that in mind, maybe it would be interesting to think of, like, we thought about a date in the beginning. It was, you mentioned like it having been before July this year, maybe like having a more realistic deadline, like very well into 2024 would be October, I guess, right? Like, because you have to put these things in a row first.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised if we could pull off early 2024 at this point. Yeah, this is kind of a weird question. Is there any real difference in terms of organization or expectation between a conference and a symposium when we use those words? Are they kind of more or less functionally interchangeable?
Somebody recently pointed to me that they thought conference was seminar. Seminar is something that happens for just one day. I'm not sure about that, because I'm not sure about that because, for instance, at the new center, I give seminars, and seminars kind of 4 to 8 sessions, not one day. So I don't know. I don't really know. This person thought that seminar is something that goes on from one day. So I think it's really kind of to the taste of the user. It seems to me like they are interchangeable. I think perhaps, yeah. I don't know, really. I use them interchangeably. So.
Okay. I mean, we could just start giving numbered seminars if we really want to go that kind of angle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roman numerals.
I don't like Congress because Congress has, the other connotations, like more kind of institutional thing like Congress and things like that. So I prefer Symposium because the connotation is like, for instance, Plato. I don't know. So it's kind of nicer than Congress.
Yeah.
Or conference, perhaps. I think Symposium is nicer, but it's just kind of a matter of taste, I think, and association.
All right, it's good to know. Just didn't want to commit ourselves to anything. But the reason I thought that was, recently was, I guess it's already been a couple years, but Gabriel had his symposium for his book that came out. And I was thinking, and a lot of my ideas for this actually were inspired by that, because there were quite a few good panels with people that were doing things and theorizing, coming together and stuff. But yeah, that's another possibility. This would really put it down the road, or we could just plan a second one or whatever. But like thinking about the book as like a symposium for the book when it comes out would also be a deal. But I have no clue what the timeline is for the book. I'm not involved.
Yeah,
at all in that.
definitely.
So.
I wouldn't put my money that the book will be out quick or something. No, I would no, definitely not. So yeah, book projects, man, it takes forever. So our historical materialism text is now postponed to the end of 2024. So fuck. So yeah, there's that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Dang.
book project is always, yeah, tends to take forever.
Something else to bring up here as a related topic to bring up or to dive more into are things like the historical materialism conference and stuff, like having strategic interventions where we choose to like submit papers kind of with the goal of representing STP and not simply like doing your own thing, whatever.
No, this will happen. There's a launch of the book. You mean the book, the historical material, the real historical materialism book that we contributed to?
I just mean in general, like
in general, okay. Because
I assume
there's
we're
the
gonna
editor,
be involved in
historical
something.
materialism, and we had like this project. We submitted like 2 papers. I submitted one solo, and there was one from STP. And they are doing the conference, and I think they have an annual conference on historical materialism because it's the name of the editor. And next year, the conference will be the launch of this book. So,
oh, okay.
I'm not sure everybody's aware, but the idea is that we are invited because we contributed to the book. So,
oh shit, okay.
we should go there and talk some shit. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the paper is signed STP. So yeah, it will be something for the STP, and the other one is a solo project of mine anyway. But anyway, we have like 2 interventions if you count mine at this launch. So it was initially this was supposed to go on in June, but they postponed because I don't know. I think one of the big shots is taking forever to give them their papers. So yeah, this is the problem. And we are still to listen from the editor, but I think it's all good. The other guy, one of the editors, was raving about the paper. So I really think we're in. I'll be much surprised if we are not. So I think this will be all good. Yeah, and there's that. And there's my conference that I'm proposing in London in June about Sellers, Pittsburgh School and Marx. And I think some of the people here are perfectly qualified to also go there and talk about this and have like an STP kind of angle to that. But the only issue that we will be competing with me because I'm organizing and I have the STP angle also on that. So maybe we'll have like a couple of angles and it will be a room filled full with Marxists. And of course, there will be a lot of infighting as always.
Oh yeah. I mean, what a better crucible to test out some of our ideas in a room of comradely Marxists.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like we definitely want to schedule around these huge events. We don't want to clash, right?
Yeah, this is also one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. The Sellers and Marx thing is June. Hopefully in presence. Hopefully I'll be there, but it's also you can take part online as well. And the other one, I was talking to Conrad, and they said like it's postponed till I don't know September or something like that. which is I think is the normal date for their conference, their annual historical materialism conference. And for that is a kind of really formal thing. We are invited, from what Conrad said, Conrad, not Paul, Conrad said that. We are invited to present because we are in the book. Everybody who's in the book will be presenting. So these are the two things. The second one is still open, but he said, I think he said September. So.
I just wanted to, I might be putting you on the spot here, Kaio, but I was wondering, were you planning to present, since you wrote the proposal, like to kick off a meeting to talk about that? Or is that kind of up in the air who's going to do that? Just kind of thinking of how we'd initiate that process.
I have to be honest, I really don't know, because like the last time we talked about it was in the midst of like both positions, right? So it was kind of at the same time, and it was rather brief, but we got onto the central admin, right? We could very well do we would separate a day. I think it's necessary, right? We would have to separate a date, maybe go back and review what was already there, and take everything from this meeting in mind and put it in the file as well, like the whole idea of prioritizing and what would be first, let's see, the first tasks right at hand. But yeah, I think we would have to put another meeting, but not, I don't know if necessarily to present it, more just to get on with the voting in the same terms of what we did for the central admin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
I don't know.
That's kind of more what I was thinking. The reason I was just asking is I think Raphael, he wrote the CA proposal and then kind of stewarded the next meeting. So I was just wondering if that's something you'd be interested in doing, since that's already kind of the pattern.
Let's do it. Sure. I have to confess, like I wasn't present the last two meetings or so. I wasn't able to attend, so I don't know where we were in terms of this. I know that there were other presentations, and the first thing I remember talking to Fair about was that there would be the symposium meeting, right? So yeah, I guess we just need to set this date, and yeah, I think that's basically it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
like, do we have some openings in October, right?
I think we got quite a few.
Yeah, we could maybe schedule this like I don't know, like early October such, and try to perhaps in the group kind of like just give the just like give the cue, like, hey, this will be happening soon, like whoever is interested, like this would be, because there were some people that were interested in the central admin position, and of course they're not complimentary in any way, but maybe a person who was available for that might want to make themselves available for the rest. So maybe just giving the cue there would be nice, and then we'll settle on a date to maybe discuss a little and vote.
Sounds good.
How about we do this now, just as to not get lost in the infinite list of things we kind of have to do. Let me see what date is open. Wait, I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm looking for the calendar. No. Does anyone know the link to the presentation calendar?
Yeah, I'm looking.
I think this one's it.
Let's see. Thanks, Dennis. Okay. So this is, where are the dates? Okay, unscheduled September, October. Okay, so we have the 9th, 23rd, and 30th. What do you guys say? Maybe on the 9th, we'll do it like sooner than later. Yeah, so
Sooner than later
I
is
guess
good.
I'll just put, okay, so I'll just put here. Should I just write it there, like meeting or meeting?
And you're on the spreadsheet right now. Should I go ahead and add it to the website list?
I guess we could, right? At least get this already done.
What did you call the meeting?
Work meeting on research coordinator.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put, I think here, a slash voting, right? We should get it done, right? So. Yeah.
I think what we did last time was we started the negative vote, but we kept it open for a week. But we'd initiate it at the meeting.
So if I just put the meeting, that's enough, then we'll vote there, and we'll leave it open as we did last time with the negative lottery.
That sounds good.
Okay, cool. Let me just put it in my calendar too.
I didn't put much in the description, but it's there. So if you want to edit it or anything.
Could you, is it the same link? No, it's not. It's the other
No, I can share and just say, just let me set the time real quick.
one. Nice. Okay, so later on I'll add to that because I don't even think I have an account for this. I need to make one. Okay, but it seems like that's kind of in the way to like going to the symposium. I think this is kind of sine qua non, right? Going through this and then everything else will fall more into place.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kaio, for initiating a doing of something. Now it is done. All right. Well, I feel like we're getting to a good wrap up point, but I want to do, in the spirit of calls, the final call for any comments, thoughts, questions, things, or just general thoughts that popped up in the process of this.
Nothing here, but yeah, just thank you all for having this discussion. I think it was really helpful to get these ideas out, and yeah, I feel like it's more concrete in my mind what the purpose and the format of the symposium will be. So thank you guys.
yeah, I'd like to second that, as this was really good. Yeah, obviously with that.
Okay. I think that's, yeah.
All right, Caron here to end the awkward waiting. So, all right, everyone, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
As always, it's a pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good one.